The Middle East is a region on edge. Tensions between Israel and Iran are higher than ever. At the heart of this conflict lies Iran's nuclear program. Israel sees Iran's pursuit of nuclear technology as an existential threat. They fear Iran will use nuclear weapons against them. This fear has led to calls for military action against Iran's nuclear facilities. Iran insists its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes. They say they want nuclear energy, not nuclear weapons. The international community remains skeptical. Iran has a history of hiding parts of its nuclear program. This makes it difficult to trust their claims. The possibility of an Israeli attack on Iran's nuclear sites is a constant worry. Such an attack could have huge consequences for the entire region. It is crucial to understand why this is a dangerous path. The specter of nuclear war hangs heavy over the world. The horrors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki serve as a stark reminder of the devastating power of these weapons. The thought of nuclear weapons in the hands of a hostile state is terrifying. This fear is especially acute for Israel, given its history and its small size. Iran's nuclear ambitions have heightened these anxieties. Israel believes Iran seeks to wipe them off the map. They see Iran's nuclear program as an existential threat that must be stopped at all costs. This belief drives their hawkish stance towards Iran. However, military action against Iran is not the answer. Bombing Iran's nuclear facilities is a risky gamble with potentially catastrophic consequences. It is a strategy fraught with danger and uncertainty. It is essential to approach this issue with caution and explore all other options before resorting to military force. Many believe that bombing Iran's nuclear program will cripple it, setting it back years. This belief is misguided. Airstrikes might delay Iran's nuclear program, but they won't destroy it. Iran has learned from history. They have buried their nuclear facilities deep underground, making them difficult to target effectively. Moreover, bombing could be counterproductive. It could strengthen Iran's resolve to build nuclear weapons. An attack would play into the hands of hardliners in Iran who argue that the country needs nuclear weapons for its security. The international community would also condemn such an attack. It would damage the credibility of the US and Israel. It would make it harder to build international support for diplomatic efforts to resolve the crisis. Bombing Iran's nuclear facilities could have severe consequences for the region's stability. Firstly, it could lead to an escalation of violence. Iran could retaliate against Israel or US interests in the region. This could spiral into a wider conflict with devastating consequences. Secondly, it could trigger a regional nuclear arms race. If Iran is attacked, other countries in the region might feel compelled to develop their own nuclear weapons for deterrence. This would make the Middle East a far more dangerous place. Instead of resorting to military action, the focus should be on diplomacy and containment. The goal should be to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons while avoiding a catastrophic war. This requires a combination of pressure and engagement. Some argue that a nuclear-armed Iran poses an existential threat to Israel, and therefore any risk is worth taking to prevent it. This argument is based on flawed assumptions. While a nuclear Iran is undesirable, it is not an existential threat to Israel or the United States. Israel already has a formidable nuclear arsenal of its own, estimated to be in the dozens of warheads. They also possess sophisticated delivery systems. This gives them a credible second strike capability, meaning they can retaliate against any nuclear attack. Furthermore, Iran's leaders are rational actors. They may be ruthless, but they are not suicidal. Using nuclear weapons would invite swift and devastating retaliation. It would be against their own interests. Military action is a blunt instrument. It can be effective in achieving specific objectives, but it is not a solution to complex political problems. The Iranian nuclear issue is a prime example. Bombing Iran's nuclear facilities might delay their program, but it won't address the underlying reasons why Iran is pursuing nuclear technology in the first place. Iran feels threatened by the United States' military presence in the region. They also seek regional power and influence. These are legitimate security concerns that cannot be bombed away. Addressing them requires a political solution, not a military one. The idea that any country possessing nuclear weapons is unacceptable is a noble but unrealistic goal. The nuclear genie is out of the bottle. Several countries have nuclear weapons and more are seeking them. The focus should be on preventing the proliferation of these weapons and managing the risks associated with them. This requires a multifaceted approach. It involves strengthening the international non-proliferation regime, engaging in diplomacy to resolve regional conflicts, and building trust between nuclear-armed states. It also requires addressing the underlying security concerns that drive countries to seek nuclear weapons in the first place. Section 8. Living with a nuclear Iran. While not ideal, the world may have to learn to live with a nuclear-armed Iran, just as it learned to live with a nuclear-armed Soviet Union during the Cold War. This requires accepting the reality that Iran, like any other nation-state, has the right to peaceful nuclear technology. However, this right comes with responsibilities. Iran must abide by its international obligations under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. They must allow for rigorous inspections of their nuclear facilities to verify the peaceful nature of their program. The international community must hold Iran accountable for its actions. Section 9. The logic of deterrence. Deterrence played a crucial role in preventing nuclear war during the Cold War. The understanding that any nuclear attack would be met with massive retaliation helped to maintain a strategic balance between the superpowers. This same logic can be applied to the Iranian case. A nuclear-armed Iran would be deterred from using nuclear weapons against Israel or its allies for the same reasons the Soviet Union was deterred from attacking the West. The consequences of such an attack would be catastrophic. Iran's leaders understand this. Section 10. Diplomacy first, always. The best way to address the Iranian nuclear challenge is through diplomacy and engagement. This involves offering Iran a combination of incentives and disincentives to persuade them to abandon their pursuit of nuclear weapons. Incentives could include easing sanctions, providing economic assistance, and recognizing Iran's legitimate security concerns. Disincentives could include tougher sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and the threat of military action as a last resort. Section 11. The path forward. The Iranian nuclear issue is complex and multifaceted. There are no easy solutions. However, one thing is clear: military action is not the answer. Bombing Iran's nuclear facilities would be a dangerous gamble with potentially catastrophic consequences. The international community must remain united in its opposition to Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons. However, this opposition must be channeled through diplomacy, not military force. The goal should be to find a peaceful resolution that addresses Iran's security concerns while preventing the proliferation of nuclear weapons.